Hey, good morning, folks. We're about to go live, the behind-the-scenes live stream here. Yes, the radio program on Wood Radio in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We'll do that, West Michigan Live, plus the after show, the show after the show. Just let me know where you're watching from today. Love to hear from you. If you can hear me and see me good, we're going live in just moments. Stand by.
Join the conversation now at 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. It's West Michigan Live with Justin Barkley on Wood Radio.
Good morning, folks. Wow, it is a big one. Another big day. It's the year is off to a bang. It's been a heck of a year already. Let me just put it that way. Even in the last day or so. Yeah, big news, big shakeups here in West Michigan, particularly Ottawa County, that will send ripples not just throughout the state, but let me tell you, I believe throughout the rest of the nation. We'll get into that coming up this morning as well. 3 strikes from McCarthy in the speaker bid. What is next? Another vote coming today in the House. We'll keep you touched.
News, weather, and traffic.
All of it.
And the biggest stories of the day. We're talking about what matters most in West Michigan and beyond. This is the Big Three. Now today's Big Three.
The stories of Matter Most should be talking about these around a water cooler, the dinner table, no matter where you are, powered by our good friends at Heartland Home Mortgage. Now serving not just Michigan, but Florida too, the free state of Florida, where they inaugurated for his second term Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday. We called Dave Galloway and the team to find out how they can save you money, whether you're looking to get out of Michigan and move to Florida, buy that second home, or maybe you're just looking for a refi or a home equity line of credit like we did, a HELOC. Home equity loan, pay off some credit card debt, slash your payments in half, save thousands again. Heartland Home Mortgage can help. They've got custom solutions for every person, but you're going to need to call them 5 minutes, quick call. They'll point you in the right direction, whether they can help you or not. 616-974-9105 or go online to hhmlending.com. A shakeup at the first Board of Commissioners meeting yesterday in Ottawa County, rocking not just the county, but sending reverberations throughout the rest of the state, and I think the nation, too. Here's a couple of things that went down. Yes, they voted to replace their administrator with a new administrator, county administrator, now former congressional candidate John Gibbs. Many calling him overqualified. They got rid of their DIE, which you know is another big bone of contention for folks, or the DIE department, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unfortunately, that little the department, apparently from reports or a hearing, was doing anything but including. It was excluding folks and various different ways. And then yesterday also, they got rid of their county health officer as well as their legal counsel. Big moves again. We'll talk about those, plus talk with board chair Joe Moss coming up at 9:35 this morning. 3 strikes for McCarthy. Voting for the Speaker of the House will resume today. 3 separate times McCarthy couldn't quite get to that threshold of 218 votes. That's what they need to get across the line to become the next Speaker of the House. In fact, Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries had more votes each time they did. It was kind of awkward to see that, but it's a process playing out. What happens next? House is set to reconvene at noon today. They hope they'll reach a resolution. Who knows? This is the first time in 100 years they've had to go to multiple ballots for Speaker of the House. 1923 was the last time, in fact. And many making some waves, not just about this process, but the fact that Kevin McCarthy is already in the Speaker's office. He might have to unpack and move out. That's got to be interesting. There's somebody making a big stink about that, too. I'll fill you in on the full story on that coming up. More Twitter files. Another day, another drop. This time, Matt Taibbi dropping more Twitter files showing government involvement. I'll detail these in some links a little bit later on. Of course, you can always find everything that we talk about, whether it be links to stories, whether it be full-on videos, whatever it is at the Stack. I post everything up at justinbarclay.com. By 2020, Twitter struggling with the problem of public and private agencies bypassing them. He calls this Twitter and the FBI belly button. They get straight to the media with lists of suspects and accounts. In February 2020, COVID breaking out, the Global Engagement Center, a fledgling analytic intelligence arm of the State Department, went to the media with a report called Russian Disinformation Apparatus Taking Advantage of Coronavirus Concerns. As you can imagine, more details of how the government sought to and did, in fact, silence Americans for free speech violations, folks, violating the Constitution. This, if you've been paying attention, is nothing new. If this is the first time you've heard it, should be damning information. Of course, we'll break more of it down coming up this morning. It's always a pleasure. No matter where you're watching the behind-the-scenes live stream this morning on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Getter. That is the free speech version of Twitter before Elon freed the bird. Rumble, of course, the free speech version of YouTube, up and running as we speak this morning as well. And you can always get this show in the podcast if you don't want to miss a moment. You say, I'd love to hear that guest, but I can't quite make. I got a meeting coming up. You can always grab our podcast, the iHeartRadio app, and just click on West Michigan Live there, anywhere you get your podcasts for that matter. Yeah, we will be talking coming up this morning to the board chair and the newly named board chair there of the Ottawa County Commissioners, Board of Commissioners. A big meeting yesterday. I think I kind of tipped off to what was coming, but I didn't know all of the juicy details, all the fireworks that would explode over Ottawa County yesterday. But I got to tell you, it's not just Ottawa County. It's the entire state. It is folks on the left, particularly advocates. Most people don't really. If you're not plugged in and engaged in this sort of thing, you're really probably not paying attention to what's happening in your backyard. Now, a lot of folks are looking at what's happening in D.C. today, particularly in the House and this exercise electing a speaker to have. Now, this is important. It absolutely. I'm not saying that it isn't. But what happens in your own backyard is often more important than what happens in Washington, D.C. What happens in your house more important than what happens in the White House. These are sentiments that I tend to agree with. And for far too long, what has happened in places like Ottawa County, specifically, just kind of flew under the radar. And for the most part, you know, Well, the general public folks are just kind of, they don't pay attention. It doesn't get a lot of news coverage. It's not spicy. It's not clickbaity. It's not worthy of coverage in many cases, unless they do some big ribbon cutting, got business coming to town or groundbreaking or something like that, and they want to get out and, of course, promote that, toot their own horn. Look what we did. Look what we did. And, of course, that's what politicians do. So, I'm just kind of explaining what happened, of course, why it happens. But what happened back in 2020 as all what broke loose all throughout Michigan, in fact, in various places throughout our country, but particularly in Ottawa County, we saw you and me, regular folks. We saw people get attacked by the very institutions of government that are really made to serve us. At the county level, at the state level, and folks decided they had enough. This is a long time coming. There is a meltdown literally happening as we speak from folks on the left, mostly the activist class, the leftist progressive activists, and then useful idiot class of folk who just tweet and respond to everything that all the Kool-Aid that's shoved down their throats, their gullets. They tweet, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, my goodness. So they're having a literal meltdown today, and that tells me everything I need to know about what happened in Ottawa County and why I believe they're making so much noise. Because what happened took them by surprise, completely caught them off guard. They did not suspect and think that the folks on the right, and by the way, folks on the right might not have thought this either, but that folks on the right might actually, conservatives, Republicans even, might actually do what they said that they were going to do once they got into office. This is one of the biggest problems with politicians altogether, but many in the Republican Party anyway, is that people they kind of, they'll call these grassroots folks, but it's real everyday folks like me, you, and it's just people who sort of, they say, I believe it when I see it. They have kind of written off parts of, and we'll just call them the establishment, but parts of the Republican Party. And it's because they'll talk a good game. Yes, it come election time, talk a good game. Everything's great. You're going to fight this. We're going to fight that. I mean, look how hard McCarthy is fighting. Tooth and nail right now to try and win the speakership in the House. Fighting his own teammates, so to speak. Fighting Republicans. If he would fight Democrats half as hard as he's fighting Republicans right now to secure the seat, he wouldn't have any problem at all securing the seat. And yet here we are. So you have a group of Republicans who got elected, folks who ran in Ottawa County anyway, who got elected and actually started moving forward, doing the things that they promised they would do. So how did we get here? It was the mask mandates. It was the talk of the vaccines. It was shutting down schools. It was all of these things that are supposed to be able to be stopped at the decentralized local level. The county authority, the sheriff, in fact, has a big authority. But we saw folks and unelected people in all areas, all across the state, all across the country, and in Ottawa County, Kent County. In fact, there was a time when Kent and Ottawa County were working side by side. Oh, they did the big press release about it. Oh, we're working side by side to make sure we make these decisions together about sending kids to schools in masks. Something which we know did not work now. We knew that then, too. They would not admit it. But we know for a fact did not work, does not work, and Ashish Jha, White House COVID czar, just admitted the other day, there is not a single study that suggests that the masking did and would work. Ashish, you not. And yet you were told by county health department director, oh, this is important stuff. We've got to make sure we do this. And that is why we saw a movement born in Ottawa County, amongst other reasons, but that is why we saw a movement born. restaurants being shut down, businesses crippled. And folks, the people have spoken. There are people on the left right now that are losing their ever-loving minds. They just can't handle it. They can't quite fathom how this is possible other than to say, suggest it's bigotry and the folks are racist. Well, they just got rid of the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion office there that was basically it's a scam altogether. They name all these things great. And I'm like, yes, of course everybody wants diversity. We want equity, whatever the heck that is, and inclusion. Of course we want all of that. And yet, they didn't really follow through. In fact, I got some stories that I've been hearing about how people were applying for jobs in Ottawa County and turned down because they were white. Apparently, they weren't diverse enough. Now, you're making decisions based on the color of someone's skin. That's the very definition of racism. So, of course, that had to be abolished. They had to start from scratch, whole cloth, get rid of it. And you have a county health director who had no idea and wouldn't listen to the experts when it came to what we should be doing. Control measures and things like that in schools, what we could have done in nursing homes, what we could have done in schools. In fact, folks, it should absolutely make you livid, not just to find out that masks were theatrics, political theatrics, but on top of that, there were things that we could have done with all of that COVID money that came down the pipe. There were things we could have done with the federal money, and believe me, I mean, it's federal COVID money, but you know whose money that is. It's your money in the first place. Everybody was lined up at the trough. They didn't want to turn it down. But you know what we could have done? Could have put that money into other control measures like HVAC systems, filtrations, and things like that. Things that folks like Kristen, Megan Kelly, Tammy Clark, these industrial hygienists, these folks who are experts in that field have talked about. No, I'm not talking about Twitter armchair expertise level folks who would just tweet and say, "Are you a doctor? Do you know? Where's your degree? Are you a doctor?" No, we talked to the experts. Henry Ford used to have a button on his desk. In fact, he was asked about this in a court trial one day, whether or not he was smart or not. They had this whole conversation, and he said, "Well, I don't have to know the answer to any of these questions. I have a button on my desk that I can summon forth anybody at any moment to answer these questions for me. I don't have to have the expertise. I just have to know who the experts are, talk to them, and weigh their advice." And that's what we should have done all along. Folks on the left who are so excited and to just promote and talk about democracy, the threat of democracy. We are in threat. Democracy is a threat. It's interesting to me that the people have spoken. They made such a big deal out of this. Yesterday. Oh, all of these things that took place, they weren't on the meetings notes. They weren't on the notes for the meeting. We didn't know this were coming. We got blindsided. We had no idea. Nobody got blindsided here, folks. The people of Ottawa County spoke when they voted for these individuals. Matter of fact, we'll talk to one of them coming up at 9:35, the chair of the board. Find out what exactly happened yesterday, why it happened, and more importantly, what happens next. But I'm going to tell you, this isn't just about Ottawa County, although it should be. It should be a shining example to the rest of the nation. What's possible when the people, average, everyday, ordinary folks, stand up, stand together, fight back, and do, with the Lord's help, the extraordinary. Shining a light on the truth and those in the fight, because we won't back down, folks. We continue after this on West Michigan Live.
You don't have to go through yet another year with that knee pain or back pain. People with chronic joint pain are getting real, lasting relief from QC Kinetics. Hey, it's Steve Kelly.
All right, good morning, folks. Appreciate y'all being here. Yes, M Live calling them far right, Elizabeth. I saw that too. Far right. Well, is the whole county far right? Because the whole county, this seems like pretty mainstream. These individuals that got elected. Far right. M Live. Of course. What do you expect from these people? I mean, come on. All right, good morning. Let me say hi to some of the folks on Facebook quickly here. Michelle, Paula, good to see you. Jane, good morning. Carrie, Jesse, Johnny, and over on Rumble, the Rumblers are fully locked and loaded this morning. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Brumbies fan, Lady Blah Blah. Such a time as this. Fired up Ginger. Faye, good to see you. Tennisal, lots of folks jumping in. And on Getter, we're Getter Live right now. Adov, R. Reagan, Flatlander, Sheila, good to see y'all too. Let me know where you're watching from. And of course, please click share no matter where you're watching. If you're watching on Facebook, reach down to that button, click share, because the world needs to hear what's happening here. We've got to get the truth out. If you're on Rumble, make sure you share as well as reach down and hit that plus sign. Those Rumbles help Rumble notify Rumble who's going live and what's happening, and of course what people like about the content that is live. So love to have your help there with that and help spread the word. So click that little plus button if you can, if you dare. Yeah, Matt Gaetz has said some pretty fiery things in the last day or so too. I want to talk about some of that in the Speaker of the House and the race for all that. We'll get into that coming up in just a second. Joe Moss is joining us in moments. Let me just test and see. I think maybe he's on. Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Morning. All right, I can hear you and see you. Good morning. Hang on one second. We're going to get you on the air probably at 9:35. Stand by. Here we go.
Listening to News Radio 1300.
Yeah, well, as far as John Gibbs goes and the county administrator, you talk about overqualified. In fact, somebody actually printed that. I was surprised to see it, but this guy's credentials are impeccable. Should have been hired as the next congressman from West Michigan, but instead he's decided to stay home. Of course, they're putting him to work in Ottawa County. We'll talk about that change and some of the others that took place. Joe Moss, chairman of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners, joining us next to talk about what happened yesterday, why it happened, and what happens next on West Michigan Live. This is Wood Radio. Okay, folks. We got a lot going on today, guys. I just got to tell you, this is one of those. This is one of those days that you are going to be. It's going to be wall to wall, and it's going to feel like I say it every day. You're drinking from a fire hose because you are. But it is going to be one of those days. All right, checking text messages. We'll get our stuff here too. Wants to join us there. So if you're just tuning in, you're watching a behind-the-scenes live stream right now. So we have a radio show that airs in West Michigan and Grand Rapids. And that is from 9 to 10. It's an hour long. Then we jump into the after show, which is the show after the show. That's why we call it the after show. Anyway, you get the behind the scenes version of everything. So right now they're playing commercials and the news guys talking, and trust me, I know you don't want to hear anything. Here's some of it.
This is on Capitol Hill. He also asked how long will McCarthy remain there before he's considered a squatter in Washington until
now that's a funny story. That actually is a funny story. Matt Gaetz, I'll give you a little bit of that. Matt Gaetz sent a letter to the House architect. Hang on, let me pull it up here for you. And as I'm doing that, just know this behind the scenes. So you got commercials and news that are happening right now, and you know, so while that happens, you and I chat, we talk. Yeah, and maybe I take a break here and there, but I can also do things like this. Like I'm going to show you this letter that Congressman Matt Gaetz sent to the House architect. What he calls the architect of the Capitol is the proper title. For the Honorable J. Brett Blanton, architect of the Capitol. Dear Mr. Blanton, I'm writing to inform you that the Speaker of the House office located in the U.S. Capitol building is currently occupied by Representative Kevin McCarthy. As of this morning, the 117th Congress adjourned sunny day, and a Speaker from the 118th Congress has not been elected. After 3 undeciding votes, no member can lay claim to this office. What is the basis in law, House rule, or precedent to allow someone who has placed second in 3 successive Speaker elections to occupy the Speaker of the House office? How long will he remain there before he is considered a squatter? Please write back promptly, as it seems Mr. McCarthy can no longer be considered Speaker designate following today's balloting. Sincerely, Matt Gaetz, member of Congress. Now, I just thought that's really something. That's really interesting. So what is happening there? We kind of talked a little bit about it in the Big Three today. And of course, just to break the simple story down, is he doesn't have the votes. At least it appears as we speak. McCarthy does not have the votes. Trump is backing him, and there are various different. Jim Jordan is backing Kevin McCarthy for Speaker, and but there is a group, and it started as like a handful of people. I said, nope, you've heard of never Trumpers. These are never Kevins. They are never Kevins. And they say, well, never, I'm not voting for him no matter what. But that group has grown. I think the last vote, it ended up 20 people voting for someone, Republicans, voting for someone other than Kevin McCarthy. It takes 218 votes to hit Speaker. There are a lot of people that are getting frantic and, of course, a little nervous right now. I understand this. Saying, well, wait a minute. If he doesn't get, what was this? Is this Democrat going to become Speaker of the House? Could that possibly? Well, it could possibly happen. Likelihood is no. They probably have to move on. So, by the way, I think the longest this whole process went out was like 3 months. Hang on, we'll get back on the air. We'll continue that conversation probably in the after show 2 coming up in just moments. Back on the radio live. Stand by. All right, join the program at any time. 616-774-2424. And, of course, the iHeartRadio app, you just hit that talkback feature on that button there. And it's like a microphone. Thanks to the good folks at Matthijs Kuiper de Graaf, MKD Funeral Homes, making that possible today. Big news, not only following what's happening with the race for Speaker of the House in Washington, D.C., next vote, I think the members are back in at noon today. So we'll resume with that. Who knows where that goes? We're just talking about the letter Matt Gaetz sent asking, why is Kevin McCarthy in the speaker's office? He's not the speaker yet, and it doesn't look like we're going to get there. Now, that's an interesting letter in itself. I shared some of that off the air of behind-the-scenes live stream, but I'll share more of it coming up either on this show or the after show coming up at 10 this morning. But first, forget D.C. There's a lot happening there, but you know what? There's even more happening behind the scenes in our own backyard. Joining us to talk about that and what is happening is Joe Moss. He is now the chair of the Ottawa County Commissioners, the Board of Commissioners. Joe, we appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and to chat about what happened yesterday, big shakeups in Ottawa County. But I think not just this isn't just about Ottawa County. I believe that the things that happened yesterday, and of course leading up to this, I believe will have reverberations, not just throughout the state, but throughout the nation, because what happened, how it happened, and maybe even what comes next. And I want to talk about all three of those. Welcome in, and appreciate you being here with us. Happy New Year.
Yeah, good morning, Justin. Happy New Year.
So, Mr. Chair, let me ask you, if I may, what happened yesterday was a long time coming. A group called Ottawa Impact was born, if I describe this correctly, out of frustrations among citizens in 2020 with what took place in the county. In fact, it's not just one issue. It's a number of issues, and I think maybe these were growing over time. They really came to a head in 2020, and citizens, regular, average, everyday folks, decided to get involved and become a part of the process. The process that many of us have never really, was sort of like, we outsource it to certain folks. I'm not going to pay attention to this. Maybe I'll vote, but I'm not really going to get engaged. I'm not going to take part. You and a handful of other people decided, no, not anymore. We're going to stand up. We're going to stand together, and we're going to make a difference. That's how I see this starting. You want to just kind of give us the cliff notes of that, how that started?
Yeah,
what happened?
Absolutely. No, you're right on, Justin. That is how it started. And the interesting part is that, over the last 2 years, we started advocating in our county with the former county board, with the staff and the employees in Ottawa County. And that, so the changes that have occurred here, they shouldn't be too much of a surprise. We've been speaking about this at public meetings, calling our commissioners, things like that for the last, 2 years. But that's really how it started, how you summarized it. That was excellent.
So, Joe, from what I understand, then various things like issues in schools, in the health department, in the county, diversity, equity, inclusion, some of the things there. Some of the stories that I heard, maybe you heard very similar stories, is that a department that was originally sort of designed to maybe make Ottawa County more diverse and make it more appealing. It's grand and probably you think, okay, these are good ideas. But what ended up happening is that certain people were getting excluded, not included, for jobs and hiring and things like that along the county. Of course, that is not, that wasn't necessarily the intention. I think well-meaning, if folks did have a good intention behind it, but that's what was happening. Along with some of the other really kind of, I think, concerning issues that folks are facing in schools and things like that. This kind of led to that. Now, yesterday, as you all were elected, this happened in multiple stages, but Ottawa Impact is formed. Ottawa Impact, you then you sign a contract with the folks who are endorsed. Here's what we stand for. Here's what we're going to do. We mean business, and when we get in office, and by the way, day one, you guys started. I mean, the ball started rolling yesterday. So,
right. Yeah.
We don't talk about all that, but you guys won primaries, which was pretty spectacular. You kicked out who had been there, and most of them, I don't know them, but probably good people, but just not really in touch with what the people of Ottawa County wanted. Maybe weren't receptive to listen.
Right.
And then moving forward, you went on to win the general. And the reason I bring this up is because a lot of the conversation I've seen coming from the left, this weird kind of, they're trying to paint you all as extremists, but it seems like you're very mainstream in Ottawa County.
Yes, I would say you are exactly correct. One of my favorite quotes about this whole situation is the people spoke and we listened. The contract with Ottawa was posted in August of 2021. We've been saying, what we would do, what we intend to do. We've been laying out a vision for the county for quite some time. I think part of the reason why people might be upset, at least certain people, is that we actually did what we said we were going to do. Not seems like not many people are actually showing that follow through these days.
Taking action.
That's what we committed to do.
So let's talk about the action you all took yesterday. There's some question about why wasn't this stuff on the agenda? So let's start there. Why wasn't this stuff on the agenda, Joe? What was the problem there?
So we had an organizational meeting yesterday, and the typical organization meeting when the county is not changing direction or course correcting is where the officers are sworn in and you elect a chair and a vice chair. And then you go through the normal order of business. You set your board rules for the year. You go through some pretty benign action to prepare for the year. And that's what we were set to do. But we had board members who were not satisfied with the status quo. They were not okay with just coming in and sitting back and sitting on their hands. Some of these new board members, they knocked thousands and thousands of doors. There were maybe 100 people in the room yesterday, cheering and encouraging on the county commission. And these new commissioners are dedicated to serving the people, and so they decided to take action, and we took several steps.
So let's talk about what some of those were. Number one, you got rid of the county administrator and hired a new one we're familiar with. Some would say he's overqualified. I thought even to run for Congress, but overqualified particularly for that position as well. John Gibbs, who we'll all know, ran in the 3rd Congressional District here in West Michigan, a man I voted for. He's the new county administrator in Ottawa County. Let's talk about how that came to be.
Right. Yeah, that was just beautiful timing, just amazing. And John Gibbs really is very well qualified for the role, having been at HUD under Dr. Ben Carson and working in the White House in the past. And so you look at his resume, it's just impressive. And the depth of experience that he has, the size of budgets that he has helped manage in the billions, far larger than Ottawa County. I'm very thankful that he has chosen to work in Ottawa County and serve the people. And I'm really looking forward to a great year this year.
Saying you guys cleaned house yesterday in Ottawa County. Good job. Is that how you would describe it, Joe? Was it a cleaning house, and did that need to take place?
No, I wouldn't call it a cleaning house. I'll read a really short quote. I think this sums it up. This was Commissioner Rohde yesterday. She said, "Our voters spoke very clearly about wanting a change in direction in our county. And the county leadership starts at the top with the county administrator. So out of respect to our voters, we had a need for a leadership change and leadership which fully aligns with the new direction of the county." So yes, a few people were replaced, and as happens when you're going in a new direction.
Yeah. So amongst those would be the county administrator, but also the top health official in Ottawa County. That move had to be made as well. Can you talk about what happened there?
Yeah. So there was a health officer appointed at the 9th hour. 11th hour last year by the previous board. At their last meeting, quickly added an agenda item that was not on the agenda, and they appointed a health officer.
And this is because the previous officer retired, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So previous health officer who oversaw a lot of the COVID restrictions and issues that happened in Ottawa County was indicated that she would be retiring. And so instead of allowing the new board to weigh in on this decision, the administration and a previous board quickly took action and appointed somebody before the new board could. And so, yesterday we appointed. We left the current health officer in place. It's important to have a health officer in the county. And so in the meantime, while this new one is being confirmed by the state, that might take a little while. They have a process they go through, but then we'll transition when the time is right.
Okay, so what other moves you made? Also, legal counsel in Ottawa County as well. Let's talk about that. Of course, there's a bit of a motto and things like that. We'll talk about all that coming up, but the legal counsel, I think that's important.
Yeah, very, very excited about the legal counsel. Coleman Legal Group is very well known and very well respected in the state of Michigan. Been involved in some very important cases, fighting for constitutional rights, for freedom, parental rights, private property rights, things like that. Excellent group of attorneys, and they are expanding into municipal law, municipal service, and so beautiful timing on that as well. Very thankful that they would be willing to take on Ottawa and have people in Ottawa County to serve the county.
Folks might recognize that name, as you mentioned. Coleman has been one of the leading groups fighting for freedom throughout the state, particularly when it comes to some of these issues that you just mentioned, the big constitutional issues here in the state.
Yep. Yeah, they represented Carl the Barber, Carl Menke, and several other high-profile cases, and did very well.
And one other question that I want to ask you about is the motto. Now, see, you guys have changed this motto. There are people having meltdowns even about this, which is, I think, very telling to me.
Right.
But I really kind of like the new motto. What was decided to change it?
Yeah. So, the new motto. Let me be clear. It is where freedom rings. It is not where freedom reigns. I've heard several very upset people getting it wrong. But where freedom rings is where individual freedoms, parental rights, freedom of religion and conscience are protected. And where that happens, all people belong, all people can thrive, all people are welcome, but we prioritize freedom and the people above all else.
So in other words, it's really this idea and philosophy that, hey, if you put freedom first, if you put that principle first, then guess what happens? Diversity, equity, inclusion, all of those things that are talked about as being the big issues these days. Well, that can all happen if we say that we're going to prioritize things like freedom, particularly. And that means freedom for all.
Right. Freedom is your default. That's your starting point. Right.
So I want to talk about like the lessons learned here, because this, I believe, isn't just about Ottawa County, although we ought to be very, very proud of what happened here in West Michigan. I do believe this will have, I think, reverberations into the rest of the state, and if not the country, as we see just average, everyday people stepping up to do something pretty incredible in itself. Coming up, I want to talk to you about that and what may come next. If you even can tip your hat to any of that, we'll discuss that coming up. Joe Moss, Sports Chair, Ottawa County Commissioners Board, here with us in moments, back on West Michigan Live News Radio 1300 and 106.9 FM. Hang on. Okay. Zylstra threw a fit to Wood TV8. He needs to become. Oh, well, that's up to the voters, I would guess. We'll ask about some of these other things too. And yes, the individual put forth to become the next health director there would be somebody whose name you might might think sounds familiar. Nate Kelly is Kristen Megan Kelly's husband, and we know her. She mentioned in the chat. Thank you, Kristen, for being here, and congratulations to Nate for that big news yesterday. But folks on the front line of some of these issues, and somebody who might have a better maybe a better handle on how to really and holistically look at the full picture that's going on in Ottawa County. Joe, do you want to speak to that real quick, maybe?
Yeah. Can you help me on exactly kind of where you want me to go?
Oh yeah, no, I just to the as you mentioned, the qualifications of Nate Kelly and.
Oh yeah, really happy to have Nate willing to serve in Ottawa. He has multiple master's degrees, occupational health, public health, years of experience in public health and working with stakeholders. And he brings a very unique data-oriented perspective that seeks excellence. And in an arena which seems to have been impacted by politics, honestly, which public health should not be impacted by politics, he will bring a very refreshing perspective, sans the politics, going to the data, and really working to prioritize the people and people's health first. So that's something I really appreciate about Nate.
Absolutely. Joe Moss, we are back on the air with Ottawa County Commissioner Board Chair Joe Moss coming up in just a moment. We talked about some of the big news, what might be coming next, and of course what this means, not just in Ottawa County, but through the I live in Kent County, but I'm really thinking about moving, Joe. I like Kent County, but you guys got something special going on there. I got to tell you. And you're the fastest growing county in the state, which I think really is going to upset a few folks because, oh man, there are some people ideologically on the left that are just so, maybe thrown off by all this. Hang on, back on the air here, guys. Back in just moments. After show coming up at 10 this morning. Lots to discuss the speaker race in Speaker of the House. They went 3 votes yesterday. Still don't have a speaker. We'll talk about what happens next. First time this happened in 100 years. What a story. But I think even a bigger one happened in our own backyard. Joe Moss is now the chair of the Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. He joins us right now. Big moves yesterday. Some of them, again, they moved to get rid of the administrator, bring in a new administrator, John Gibbs. Overqualified for that position, many would say. John ran, of course, served in the Trump administration under Dr. Ben Carson and HUD, ran for Congress here in Michigan's 3rd congressional district, and now he will oversee things in Ottawa County. Not only that, but you made a couple other big moves that we've been talking about. But I think the biggest picture on this, Joe, is that, again, folks who aren't really necessarily involved or engaged in politics decided they were going to get engaged in that civic process. We hear so much about democracy and the fact that it's under a threat these days and whatnot. But we saw democracy in action. I know we're not a democracy, but we saw the people getting together and getting involved in action in Ottawa County, and they've spoken. You didn't waste any time. Your fellow board members didn't waste any time to making changes yesterday, and that's going to also send, I think, waves, maybe not just ripples, but tidal waves throughout the rest of the country too. If people realize what exactly took place and then how fast these changes can happen, because this is the other thing we're always, this takes time, and I don't know how many times we heard from Ottawa County and Kent County and all other counties throughout to say, you're not allowed to do that. We can't make that move. This person has to do that. We can't necessarily. But you guys have done all of this, and you've set the ball in motion to do much more. So first, I want to ask you, what do you plan maybe to do next? Is there anything that you can tip your hat to? Or is that just we're going to have to wait and see where the plans take you?
Well, we did move quickly, and I can tell you a couple things that I'm excited about. Before I do, I'll tell you I did send some operating principles to the incoming board members, which kind of explained how the board needed to operate in this term. And the sixth one was act with urgency, reject passivity. You know, we came into office saying we would do what we promised. That was number one, actually, on the list. And so I'm really excited that we're in a county where President Reagan's city on a hill is possible. Ottawa County needs to lead the state and show people that I've said this on the show before, Justin. Unity is the ultimate competitive advantage. So when you can work in a unified manner, you can get things done as opposed to sitting on your hands. So there's going to be some cleanup, some changes, right? The county's already deleted the DEI website, and they're making changes. They're going to have to update the motto and things like that. But we can be very, very excited because we have a unified board setting a new vision and direction for the county. And by the way, probably the most diverse board in Ottawa County history.
Yeah.
So amazing opportunities in front of us.
All right. So let me ask you, Joe Moss, before we go, just about a minute here, but what does this mean for the rest of the country? What would you like to see, and what kind of lessons maybe we can learn, folks watching this from outside?
The people who ran and were elected in this last cycle, they're average, everyday, normal Americans who just want to defend America, defend their county. And we have a teacher, nurses, business owners, just average, everyday people, just like. If you want to make an impact, you can.
Joe,
you just have to and get involved.
We lost you just the last bit there. What did you say? Just like you and me?
Oh, yeah, just like your listeners. So, everybody listening right now, if you want to make an impact, get involved, and you can make an impact.
That's some good news, and I think some hope for all of us listening. Joe Moss, where can folks maybe reach out in Ottawa County to talk to you all? I know that staying in touch with the folks that elected you is going to be a big part, and even ones that didn't vote for you.
Yes, you can go to miottawa.org. There is a lot of information there, contact info for commissioners, ways to contact the board and the county, and love to hear feedback, love to hear people's voices. That's why we're there. The people are speaking. We are listening.
Joe Moss, Ottawa County Board of Commissioners. He's the chair. Joe, appreciate you taking the time to be here with us today. God bless, my friend.
Thank you, Justin.
Happy New Year. I think that's important to say, too. Well, we got an after show that's jam-packed coming up. We'll talk about all these stories and more. Yes, we get an update on Damar Hamlin. Somebody was asking about that in chat. We'll get into all that as well this morning. I want to thank one of our sponsors, Mentality, the folks there. Men helping you get your life back on track. Low energy motivation, weight gain, muscle loss, could be low T. They'll help you out. FDA-approved testosterone treatment and more. Go to lowtusa.com. That's low, the letter TUSA.com, lowtusa.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors making this program possible. God bless.
Gun Lake Casino Studios. The news is next on Wood Radio.
Hey, thanks again, Joe. Very appreciative to have you on. And before we let you go, just quickly, anybody in the chat have a quick question for Joe or anything you'd like to say to Joe before we let him go? And Joe, please, I know you will, but please stay in touch so that we can continue to have these conversations here on the radio. I think that's something that transparency is important.
Will do, Justin.
All right, folks, anybody quickly with a question for Joe?
Got one comment.
Go for it.
The past board knew these changes were coming. They passed severance agreements for the health director and for the DEI director. These changes should not be a surprise to anyone. They knew it was coming. They prepared for it. And I'm thankful they did. And so now action has been taken. The new board made decisions, and now we move forward.
Yeah. Well, progress is what they call that, Joe. Progress and democracy in action. There's some folks that are probably choking on their coffee this morning. We wish them well. I will say this, folks. I read this yesterday, and I think Joe would probably agree with me. The way that I know him anyway is this is so important, but it is something that should be noted. I tweeted this yesterday on the Freebird. I said it's a tough one, but maybe one of the most important. But I say to you, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. So this is maybe some of the toughest because you've got a lot of opposition. But Joe, I know you will face it with grace and love. And let me also add this, because what I've seen come out in just the last 24 hours, let's call it, is a vitriol and a rage on behalf of some of these folks. I don't even know if it's from them. It might be coming from someplace else altogether. But I will tell you that we ought to keep these board members, their families, keep them in our prayers, that they might continue to have the courage, that they would be protected, but they would continue to fight, because I know this is not going to be an easy fight. You got the gates of hell are going to be opening up to come after you all.
Yeah, I would appreciate prayers. I know the other board members would too. There's a lot of hard work ahead. I saw some questions in the chat about how is Ottawa County going to work with Kent County and other counties, and how are these things going to happen? Honestly, the easy answer is we're going to continue the excellent work that Ottawa County has been doing, and we're going to course correct in areas that need course correcting. So a couple changes at the top will provide overall wholesale improvement for the county, for the employees, for the people who live in our county, for the businesses that are in our county. And that is what we are committed to.
Amen. Well, thank you, my friend. And we appreciate you. God bless, Joe Moss.
Thank you.
Have a great day. See you. There you go, folks. I just want to give you the the last word there with Joe. All right, we've got an after show to get to, don't we? Got an after show to get to. Stand by. I don't know if you're watching this. Maybe you're watching from someplace else in the. We got people watching from all over, not just the United States or Michigan, but I mean people from Australia at some time. And people are watching from all over, and they'll chime in on our chat. But just know that there are some incredible things that are possible. And when people stand up and do what they're called to do, like we've seen in Ottawa County, have hope. Welcome into the after show. It is the show after the show. That's why we call it the after show. Never a dull moment, especially these days. Holy moly, the news like drinking from a fire hose. I usually say, oh my. Lots to discuss. Yes, we've got Kevin McCarthy going for round 4 in the House today. I don't know if he gets there or not. I don't know. He's going for round 4. 3 times and you're out, usually 3 strikes, but it's not what has necessarily, he's not out yet. He just doesn't have the votes to get to where he wants to go. 218 is needed. That hasn't taken place just yet. That's one of the big stories today. Thanking our sponsors, preparewithjustin.com. Who knows what's coming? Economic collapse, supply chain issues. We constantly hear about the supply chain. At first, it started with toilet paper, and that's kind of scary. It's so spooky to go into a store. You see that toilet paper's gone. Man, when you start hearing about children's medications, and things like that. We're on a whole nother level, aren't we? Well, the folks in my Patriot Supply want to make sure that you have what you need when you need it. They've got all kinds of goodies, including you can save $70 right now on the preparedness crate for emergency. Price it's so cheap they won't advertise it, but you can find out more when you go to preparewithjustin.com like I have for my family. It's going to make you feel a little better. It'll give you a little bit of a peace of mind, I can tell you that. An update on Damar Hamlin coming up. In fact, Coffee and COVID's Jeff Childers has written something, not just on his condition. We'll talk to him. I know folks are praying for him. We'll continue those prayers. It's amazing this is taking place in the wake of this whole story. NFL athletes on their knees, kneeling the national anthem, the flag. They won't stand, and yet they found themselves kneeling this weekend, asking their Creator, Almighty God, to step up and help a fellow player who deserves it. I mean, for all intents and purposes, looking like a very good guy, an excellent young man, as far as we know. Involved in charity work, helping kids, etc. And of course, there's more to the story, though. There's the whole reaction from what happened as well that we've got to talk about. There's the reaction to the story, and of course, what caused all of this. And what happens next with the NFL? We'll get into that. Thank another one of our great sponsors, My Pillow. Mike Lindell, he's a courageous American. He's a fighter, and he won't back down. He's fighting for you, me, and this country. And thank God that he is. When you go to mypillow.com or mystore.com, you use promo code Justin, you can save big. Not only can you help Mike in the fight and stay in it for us, but you can help support this program as well. Slippers, and I love mine. I could basically come to work in my slippers. You can wear these slippers out anywhere. They've got that kind of good cushioned sole. In fact, they're well constructed. I got the moccasin style, but you can see they've got all kinds of different sizes and, of course, styles. Save $90 on your pair of my slippers from mypillow.com/Justin when you use promo code Justin, Justin. Thanks to Mike and the folks making things happen. We've got a whole list of things, including the story about Sam Bankman-Fried. Of course, he says he's not guilty, pleading that way. A Rona report you won't want to miss, and a story out of Missouri where they put to death. It was quite an unusual case. Death row inmate executed, but the inmate executed not the same person that committed the crime, so to speak. It's a unique story. That's basically the best way I can put this. A very, very unique story. We'll talk about that coming up here in just a little bit as well. Do you want to start with the Rona? I can start with the Rona report and an update on Damar. In fact, I've got so much of Speaker of House. Holy moly. I don't even know. I mean, these guys, they're going what? For vote number 4, and you probably have questions. I've got questions. I don't know that anybody knows exactly what's going to happen there. We'll try and keep you updated. First, from the High Priest of Hell, Mr. Booster. St. Anthony of Wuhan, the patron saint of pandemics, Tony Fauci. All right. Nothing profound. I think he's retired. We don't know because we don't have the word that he's officially stepped down. I think he's retired. Now he said when he made this message, oh my God, I've got to step down from this position. He said, I'm not going to, let me be clear. I'm not retiring. My work is not done. And that's the scary part. He said, I don't know if I really want to continue doing this or not. So, now you and I both know he's afraid of the House oversight that could happen. And of course, staying on top of that and getting out as soon as he can. Now they could still bring him in. They subpoena him, bring him in, and all that. And we've seen how important that is, right? We just watched folks on the right, Trump's folks get subpoenaed and whatnot. It's very serious, folks. It's a threat to democracy. So we've got to take this whole process very serious. You know that. The folks on the left will, but Tony going to CNN now. Anderson, the fact of the matter is, he already works. He runs CNN, or he has at least for a couple of years now. I don't know. I think we're definitely going to hear some interesting things out of him in the future. No more Rona report in 2023. Patty. Unfortunately, it's always going to be here because we're going to be talking about not Rona itself, because Rona isn't the threat. In fact, I don't know if it ever was. Well, they always said the pandemic closed this down. The pandemic did this. And, this happened because of the pandemic. No, it wasn't the pandemic. It was the people. It was the people in charge, people at the top, the governors, Fauci's of the world, scarf queens, all of them. They're the ones. Dr. Death, he decided to play this the way he did. So the health department directors in counties, they have a hand to play in this as well. They ought to be held accountable. So, no, the Rona report can't go away until everyone is held accountable, and we can't stop talking about this stuff until everybody finally gets the hint and understands what happened. We can't just let this go. I'd love to just sweep everything underneath the rug, but that's not how any of this works. We can't do that. Too many people have died. Too many people have suffered. Too much has happened. And of course, we owe it. We owe it to them. So the question about Damar Hamlin, I'm reading straight from Coffee and COVID this morning, the blog that Jeff Childers writes, the attorney out of Florida. This is Coffee and COVID's update this morning. Damar Hamlin still in the hospital, still unconscious. Now, from what there's a little bit of back and forth on what actually happened with Hamlin. There's questions about his uncle said he may have woken up, but then his heart stopped beating again in the hospital, and they had to be resuscitated again. So there's questions about some of this. But yesterday we learned a few things, according to Childers. First, Hamlin coded again at the hospital. He said, next, it's now pretty well established that Hamlin was jabbed. There was a lot of question about that yesterday. Was he jabbed? Was he boosted? And there was a tweet that was floating around. And I didn't present it as fact because I've got it. See, this is why, folks, we get in trouble. Now, I love that more people are out there and they're taking charge and they're presenting things to you, podcasts or streamers and things like that. I think it's great. But we've all got a responsibility, and even average everyday folk, and I consider myself one of the, if I share something online, I got to make sure that it's correct, right? Or I got to make sure that it's credible. I got to check my sources, so to speak, right? Now, if there's no way to, I can just tell you, here's what's being talked about. There's no, there's no confirmation on this. It's been, but to realize this is not confirmed. So I can share that. I can do that. But I've got to be careful. You think we all ought to, because we are in an information war. There's a battle here. And, I won't get sidetracked talking about that, but we just ought to be careful. But yesterday, the tweet that was being tweeted around, sent around, was from a doctor, allegedly, who said that he had boosted him on the 26th. Now, that tweet has been taken down. The account is down now, too. But if you go back and search, people have said, I've seen online, that you can find a history from the account. The doctor was very pro-vaccination. He said that he checked up on Hamlin and that everything was fine. But why did the account just automatically get taken down all of a sudden? Why did the tweet get taken down? Why did somebody get to him and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have tweeted this. Maybe this shouldn't be up. I don't know. But we do know, according to this information, that he was probably jabbed at least once. I don't know if he was boosted on the 26th of December or not. But he was at least jabbed once because the team publicly boasted about being 100% jabbed at one point. So you could draw the conclusion. Now, again, some might call this conspiracy theory. No, this is called critical thinking. You could draw the conclusion that Hamlin was jabbed. He had the Fauci ouch. He was given the hokey pokey. He was, in fact, poked. We also learned that Hamlin was given 9 minutes of CPR on the field, including defibrillation. The last thing we learned was that the unfortunate NFL player has now been attached to ECMO. ECMO. According to Wikipedia, ECMO is used to give prolonged cardiac and respiratory support to persons whose heart and lungs are unable to provide an adequate amount of gas exchange or perfusion to sustain life. Again, this is all from coffeeandcovid.com. And Jeff Childers, who writes, the machine works via a blood tube inserted into the heart, which draws blood out, artificially oxygenates the blood, and then pumps it back in with a second tube. This technique is often used when the ventilation alone cannot sustain blood oxygenation levels. Hamlin's fight for his life is one of the most captivating stories in America. This morning, both the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times featured multiple cover stories about Hamlin, the NFL's medical policies, and the indefinite suspension of the game. Social media bursting with hot takes, opinions, commentary, speculation, and burning conflict, he says. Since there's no other substantive news about Hamlin, he said, I'm going to try to round up some of the best comments and add something new to the discussion. What he says is, first, one of the hottest debates is over whether it is morally proper to speculate on the cause of death. Now, you and I talked about that yesterday. So I had this conversation with you, and I said, it's very dangerous when we get into this, whether or not you can have the conversation about this or you can talk about that. I said, we've been going round and round for this the last couple of years and been silenced and shut up and told that, no, you can't talk about that or that you're not whatever it might be. And I said, look, we ought to be able to feel free, particularly in this case. And now here's why he breaks some of this down. He said, look, the best argument to tell you that we shouldn't talk about and speculate this injury, the best is against talking about this case right now because it's all hot takes. Nobody knows anything for sure. Presumably, we'll have better information soon. So all the current speculation can do is make relatives feel even worse. He says that's a decent argument. It would carry a lot more weight if the least moral people in the media weren't the ones making that argument, but they are. Beyond that, he says Hamlin's injury sits squarely on the epicenter of the most significant emotional and life-changing experience in the entire country that we've ever had to endure in our lifetimes. Over a 3-year period. So he makes the point, you can't expect us not to talk about it. I think that's fair. 3 more points. The event itself was public, not private. It happened on live television before 13 million viewers. Also, many people suspect a crime has been committed, which considerably changes the calculus. Finally, Hamlin's condition could potentially inform a lot of other people. And this is maybe the most compelling for me. His condition could inform a lot of other folks who have been jabbed, who are highly interested and cannot reasonably be expected to wait quietly and patiently for official answers. So the better argument Childers makes, in my view, is that it is moral and necessary to discuss the situation until and unless better information is provided, and it's happening anyway, he says. So I would advise Hamlin's family to stay off social media during this difficult time. Probably a good plan. Next up is the debate about the mechanism of Hamlin's injury, he says. Without even examining Hamlin, establishment experts have already concluded that it is most likely that Hamlin died from blunt force injury called commotio cordis. You've probably, if you've been on Twitter or anywhere else in the last, or listening to Main Street, this is probably all you've heard. And we have all these armchair experts out there in commotio cordis. You never heard that? I've never heard this before. People out there telling they're going to tell you everything they know about it. Holy cow, listen to this about the commotio cordis. It's ultra rare. It's an event that happens when a focused impact hits a chest wall at exactly the right angle and at just right time in the heart's rhythmic cycle to stop the heart. Well, that's possible, but is that likely? In 100 years of NFL play, no one has ever died on the field from commotio cordis, folks. And this is back when they used to wear leather helmets and basically sweaters when they played the game. There was no chest pads. So that's how rare it is. Here are two explainers predating the current debate, he shows. Commotio cordis, sudden ventricular fibrillation triggered by a blunt, non-penetrating blow to the chest without damage to the ribs or sternum. You can see, usually this is by a fist or an elbow or a baseball, lacrosse ball, hockey puck. It's possible, but very rare. It has to come at a specific time of the heartbeat. It's a phenomenon known where an unexpected blunt impact to the chest causes sudden death in the absence of cardiac damage. In other words, ventricular fibrillation caused by blunt trauma to the heart. He says, look, I find this theory laughable. The same experts pushing the commotio cordis hypothesis are the same ones who dismissed myocarditis deaths as, quote, ultra rare. They were the first ones to mark no evidence at any jab injury hypothesis. Dr. Peter McCullough, a top cardiac specialist, who we talked about yesterday, initially considered the possibility, but after he examined the film, ruled out commotio cordis. The injury is always caused by a small heart trauma, such as from a baseball, hockey puck, or a fist. It's almost always seen in young people or folks without protective padding. And when it does happen, he says it immediately stops the heart. But here, Hamlin was tackled from the side, not from the front, he talks about. Again, this is all at Coffee and COVID. I'll put all of this up. You can get links to it on the stack later. But he goes on to say, no small blunt force. And I've seen the video. I don't play it over and over for you. It is kind of hard to watch this stuff. But I was struck, because I didn't watch this live, but I was struck mostly with the fact that when I watched, it didn't look like much of a hit at all. If you watch any amount of football, it looks like any given play on any given Sunday. It is not remarkable at all. Not to mention the fact that it looks a lot like something else we've been seeing over and over again over the last year or so. Athletes collapsing on the field. Young men. Who does jab-induced myocarditis most often affect? Why? Young men. Just like Damar Hamlin, he goes on to make the point. Study after study after study confirms young men, like Hamlin, are most at risk of that injury. Recently, Florida completed its own study with findings consistent with all the others. Finally, regular readers, he says, are already aware of the recent worldwide epidemic of athletes dropping during play, just like Hamlin did. You've seen the videos, and the majority of those, I saw one the other day. It must have been yesterday that I watched this, and you see them doing the same thing. They're all doing the same thing over and over again. They just drop. And it is hard. It's hard. It's stuff that's hard to watch. But it's like a supercut that somebody has done with at least 5 or 10. Over and over and over again. You just see them falling down. Anyway, I've got a video. I play a little bit of this. That this is, I think, Dr. Peter McCullough. And this doesn't show them dropping at the time, but it shows like the commotion, what's happened after they drop. And I'll show you some of this. But it's mostly, I think we saw basketball, soccer, because these are a little bit more high impact when it comes to the heart and the running and the things that you have to constantly do to play. But take a watch.
Death syndrome.
Yeah, crazy.
And, you know, myself and Asim Malhotra, a prominent cardiologist in the UK, have come up with the same conclusion, that when we see a young person now who's previously healthy, no antecedent illness, and they suddenly die, and the two patterns are dying in sleep, typically from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m., or dying during sports. By the way, both of those time periods, there's a rise in norepinephrine, epinephrine, which is probably a internal trigger.
By the way, folks don't get this confused. That was an actual expert, cardiac specialist, Dr. McCullough, and you cannot blame folks who have watched this over and over again, seen these videos. By the way, you haven't seen them. This is one thing that we say. You haven't seen these on the news, have you? These videos have not been played. That's why I think there's such a debate happening right now, why the debate's so important. You've not seen this on the nightly news. Lester Holt hasn't paid any attention to them. You haven't heard it talked about on your local news. They're not talking about these things in the paper. Dr. Peter McCullough, as Kristen Megan Kelly points out, most cited cardiologist in the world. He, folks, and he's been through it to tell us the truth. He has been through it to tell us the truth. So that is part of what's being discussed right now in this story. We continue to pray for this young man, because he's on this specific machine that I still hold hope that he can make a comeback. But because he's on this machine and the amount of time that he went without oxygen, et cetera, these are going to be the contributing factors to what his recovery is going to be, what it's going to look like. Steve Kirsch is making the point on his Substack that Damar Hamlin is likely brain dead. I don't want to go that far because, again, I hold out hope and I pray, and I've seen miracles happen, folks. I know you've seen miracles. In fact, we've witnessed some together here. But there is a reason why we're all forced to deal with this now. There is a reason why we're all forced to pay attention to all of this. And by the way, we ought to. Did you see that they prayed? This is one of the most incredible videos you're going to watch. I showed you yesterday. The football players on their knees on a field praying for their brother, their teammate, and their opponent, but praying together. Because, when something like this happens, I think you got an ultimate glimpse of clarity. You get, holy cow, what really matters? And you're confronted with death. A lot of things change. There are no atheists in foxholes. Here they are on ESPN. ESPN, that woke network. And yet they're sharing a prayer. Praise God. Take a watch.
Do you in these moments that we don't understand, that are hard, because we believe that your God and coming to you and praying to you has impact. We're sad, we're angry. We want answers, but some things are unanswerable. We just want to pray. Truly come to you and pray for strength for Damar, for healing for Damar, for comfort for Damar, to be with his family, to give them peace. If we didn't believe that prayer didn't work, we wouldn't ask this of you, God. I believe in prayer. We believe in prayer. We lift up Damar Hamlin's name in your name. Amen.
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 Wow. What a powerful moment that you won't see every day. You won't see any other day on ESPN. Make no mistake, even in the valleys, God is moving. We may not ever understand how or why. We get glimpses into it. And you read his word. And we're also promised that he can and will work good, even in some of those toughest moments, and even in some of the hardest moments that we face. We can have joy. No matter what we face in this country, no matter what we face in our personal lives, we can have joy, we can have peace, knowing that no matter the circumstances, God is working in those very moments. That's where my peace and my hope come from. And I thank him. I thank him for it. Be afraid. Be very afraid, they tell you. Another variant. Another variant is out there, folks. It's coming for us. You remember the Omicron and the Deltacron and the Flu-Rona and the Triple-Demic and all these different things we're supposed to be afraid of? You know, we've got to stay on top of it. Oh my, folks. Oh my. They must have thrown in the towel. This is sort of good news. They must have thrown in the towel. Because this new variant doesn't necessarily sound nearly as scary as some of the others. It's a new variant known as XBB.1.5. Oh no, it's XBB.1.5. Oh, yes, it's coming. In fact, it's here. It's the dominant variant in the U.S. right now. CNN with a story and update on it this morning, causing most new coronavirus cases. I love that they're going to keep us updated on it. Remember somebody earlier in the program said, I'm done with the Rona report. I don't care about this is the stuff that I have just completely glossed over. But I have to bring it up that even as we're finding out that, hey, the bigger threat is the thing they give you to avoid the thing that they say is the threat. Apparently these days, they're still out there trying to keep us afraid, very afraid of the thing that we're supposed to be afraid of. Yes, for weeks, scientists have been monitoring a rise in several Omicron subvariants, but XBB.1.5 cases have shown the greatest spike, rising from about 4 to 41% of new infections over the month of December. Scientists say the variant features that give it the potential to drive a new surge. Oh no, there could be a new surge. Oh no. So, there you have it. There you have it. That's CNN. Why are so many young people getting the shingles? That's the story, the question that Dr. McCullough asked today. Why are so many young people getting the shingles? According to a recent case study, anyway. And, it's interesting. I saw this story this morning, and I thought to myself, what's funny about this? Not funny, but you know what's interesting about it? I just had a friend of mine, a young guy, reach out to me and say, I got the shingles. And he said to me, you know how many other people I know? What's the deal with the shingles right now? He said, you know how many other people I know who have the shingles right now at this place? He said, what's going on? I don't know. He said, they got a shingles shot you can take. Well, that's interesting. A shingles shot. You could take a shot now, and it's a whole thing, and just like the other shots that are out there. But anyway, this story from Dr. McCarthy, I'll put it now. It's got not a paywall, but it's got a registration wall. In other words, it's a place where you have to put in the your email address to confirm who you are and all that. And it's just I'm sure it's a way you can send you more emails and things like that. But shingles activation associated with COVID jab is the story that came out today. According to a recent case study, persistent post-jab shingles. And one of the questions I asked my buddy yesterday is, well, did you get the jab? He said, no, I didn't think so, because I know we've had conversations previously. Nicole said, oh, wow, listen to this. I got shingles at 17 after my first ever vaccine. Isn't that interesting? It is. It's supposedly shingles is what? Dormant chicken pox? According to a recent study, persistent post-jab shingles was associated with the presence of COVID jab spike protein in the affected skin. The researchers speculate the jab may induce persistent shingles reactivation by perturbing the immune system. Another study details the case of 6 patients with autoimmune inflammatory rheumatic diseases who developed shingles shortly after the Pfizer jabs. None of the healthy controls developed shingles post-jab. A systemic review also includes the jab increases the risk of shingles reactivation if you've had it before or have known risk factors for it. Now, that is interesting. Fascinating story. And again, I will put that on the stack as well. Everything I post, you talk about links and videos and all the stuff that we talk about on the show. Put it up over on the stack, justinbarclay.com, or of course, justinbarclay.com/locals is where you'll find it. You get a chance to keep up to date with everything. You could share these stories too if you think, okay, I kind of interested in some of these stories. Twitter files 8.0, 9.0. What are we on now? What version are we on now? So, the latest has just dropped. Matt Taibbi last night with the latest Twitter files. Adam Schiff inside it all, asking Twitter to ban journalist Paul Sperry. Free speech, I thought they were interested in. Again, it shows requests and collaboration inside the government, the FBI, some of the other alphabet agencies asking Twitter to do things to suppress people, to ban them, to ban their speech, to silence individuals who had questions, who even had counter narratives to their official narrative. Anyway. It's just par for the course. I'm not going to bore you with all of the tweets. You're saying, well, you went hard and heavy, and you know where it is. You know where to get it. You know how to find it. Matt over on Twitter, Matt Taibbi, and of course, I'll put the links up. But in the thread, I'll just give you a little bit of a thumbnail for this. There's so much happening. So again, it's called Twitter and the FBI belly button. That's what you're looking for. Twitter and the FBI belly button. Here's the picture so you can see it. Boy, it is it's it's something. Look at this photo they used. Yeah. Oh boy. Ugh. That's what it would look like if I had a Twitter belly button ring. There's a little blue bird. All right, I gotta take this off. Somebody might be eating their breakfast. By 2020, Twitter was struggling with the problem of public and private agencies bypassing them and going straight to the media with a list of suspect accounts. In February 2020, COVID broke out. The Global Engagement Center, a fledgling analytic intelligence arms of the State Department, went to the media with a report card. Remember this? A Russian disinformation apparatus taking advantage of coronavirus concerns, they said. The GEC flagged accounts as Russian personas and proxies based on criteria like describing the coronavirus as an engineered bioweapon, blaming research conducted at the Wuhan Institute and attributing appearance of the virus to the CIA. Oh, it must be Russian disinformation. Well, what do we know? We know the Russian hoax was disinformation, don't we? The collusion, the hoax. This is disinformation of a different kind. The state also flagged accounts that retweeted news that Twitter banned the popular U.S. Zero Hedge, claiming the episode, quote, led to another flurry of disinformation narratives. Zero Hedge had done reports speculating that the virus had lab origins. Some other folks did as well. I remember back in that time period, that's out, by the way, you have to Vim to thank for this, because back in that time period, we were doing some of these behind-the-scenes live stream shows on the Wood Radio Facebook page of the radio station that I work at here. Instead of the Facebook page, instead of my own Facebook page. And in fact, let me just give you a taste of what happened. Something got flagged. It was around that story of the lab leak, which we now know is widely accepted that it is at least a possibility, if not what actually happened. And at the moment, Wood Radio has about 19,000 people that follow that page. My page, before it got shadow banned, 75,000 people. My page exploded because I just started sharing the truth. I wasn't out here trying to grow a page or a following or anything like that. I just wanted to share these stories. It backfired on them. It's often how things work. I wonder how many people have been born. In other words, they woke up. They're not woke, they're awake. And they jumped into action and started sharing and started talking about what was going on. I wonder how many people just would have stayed quiet. They just would have lived their quiet lives. But they were pushed too far. Pushed too far. Some of that information, in fact, in the Twitter files, again, it's all part of the Rona report. So somebody said Rona report. Oh, no, not again. Well, I'm right there with you. I don't want to hear about the Rona's coming to get us. That's not what I'm reporting. When I do a Rona report now, 9 times out of 10, it's the unraveling. It's the COVID crumble that we've been witnessing for a while now. And here we are. Here we are, right in the middle of it. Twitter bowed to Democrat lawmaker pressure, buddied up with intel agencies' new documents show. Twitter adjusted its advertising policy following a political pressure campaign, which accelerated following a September 2017 press conference by Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, allowing U.S. intelligence agencies to have greater influence on the decision to remove advertisers from the platform, according to international documents published by Matt Taibbi yesterday. A pair of audits conducted by Twitter staff prior to and during the pressure campaign did not find significant evidence of a targeted Russian election interference campaign on the platform. Warner has political incentive to keep this issue at the top of the news, maintain pressure on us and the rest of the industry to keep producing material for them, wrote one Twitter executive whose name Taibbi redacted in its September 2017 email to the other executives. Democrats are also taking cues from Hillary Clinton. It's all documented, of course, in the latest, and we'll put that up in the stack. The FDA has now cleared abortion pills for sale at retail pharmacies. Baby killers celebrating nationwide. You couldn't get horse dewormer, they told you. to fight the COVID. You couldn't get whatever you wanted, but now all of a sudden, my body, my choice, apparently you can kill babies. The FDA says it's okay through a drug cocktail that can be prescribed. Now, not only, obviously, are the lives of the children, the babies, at risk, but what about the women as well? Medications, anytime you have to take anything, there are reactions, there are side effects. Nearly 3/4 of GOP voters want new RNC leadership. We're not just talking about in the House. We're also talking about at the national level for the chair. 3 out of 4 voters believe a new chairperson at the Republican National Committee should be elected. In other words, Romney McDaniel should be out and a new one in. A Convention of States action survey conducted by the Trafalgar Group discovered that about 73% of Republican voters said a new person should be elected. What about in the House? Oh boy, what is happening in the House? I've got some great stuff. Oh, it's great stuff, isn't it? I showed you earlier Matt Gaetz on fire in his letter earlier, saying to the architect of the Capitol, the man in the position, I guess, deciding who goes into what office, etc. Well, why is Kevin McCarthy still in that? He is no longer speaker designate. He's in his office. Why is he still in his office? He's failed 3 votes, and there will be a 4th here later this afternoon. Who knows how long all of this goes? But it's kind of funny watching Matt Gaetz going back and forth, and then he's just lighting everything on fire. The process is fascinating. A you-know-what show is the best way to describe it here. Jim Jordan saying,
but is there any chance that you may be Speaker of the House?
No, watch yourself. No, I made clear. I want to chair Judiciary Committee. I mean, you guys know I like this ability to cross-examine witnesses and get the truth for the country. So that's what I'm focused on.
What needs to change between now and when this ends?
Close need to change. It looks like to me.
So how do you do that, though?
I don't know. We're going to work on it. But I got to get back to the office.
Are you guys having more meetings and negotiations tonight, sir?
I gotta say, I like Jim Jordan. Interesting choice. One thing is becoming clear. That number has grown from, I think, just a handful to now 20. It's possible that number grows even further. Matt Gaetz on fire, making his call for Jim Jordan.
Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person for Speaker of the House because he wouldn't fight us when we try to get a term limits bill on the floor.
Look at that.
Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person for Speaker of the House because he wouldn't fight us when we try to get a term limits bill on the floor. Maybe Jim Jordan would be the right person because he wouldn't fight us when we try to put a balanced budget on the floor and vote for it. And maybe Jim Jordan is the right person because he would endorse the plan that was built by the Texas delegation to finally secure our border. Mr. Jordan said in his nomination that there are certain bills that we have to pass to fix the problem. The challenge is the alternative has been someone voting for the very bills that have caused these problems. Mr. Jordan says that we cannot accept legislation like the omnibus, and I fully agree. And if Jim Jordan were Speaker of the House, if he were the leader of the Republican team, we wouldn't have that circumstance choking the economy of our country, increasing inflation, and diminishing the prospects of a better life for our fellow Americans. And finally, Mr. Jordan said we must engage in rigorous oversight. Every one of my Republican colleagues knows that the person who can lead that oversight effort, who works on it every day, who has the skill and the talent and the will, is Jim Jordan. I'm nominating him, and I'm voting for him.
McCarthy doesn't look too happy then. Yeah, it's a fight. It'll continue to be a bit of a fight. Who knows where this goes? Yeah, the process is interesting. It's democracy at work. Of course, we're not a democracy, but you have to say that these days with it. There's one person. There is one person that I just, whoever you want to, whatever name you want to throw out there, it just sounds to me like just a complete. This would be the best way to put this, very special kind of dumb. Former Michigan Rep Fred Upton. I'm going to name his name, but listen to this. The Detroit News has a piece on this. Nolan Finley. Fred Upton finds House Speaker suggestion intriguing. Because, it doesn't have to be a member of Congress. It could be you. It could be me. Believe me, I want it far less than Jim Jordan. You couldn't pay me. Jim Jordan, I have a feeling he could be persuaded. I really have a feeling he could be. He probably doesn't want it, but I do have a feeling he could be persuaded. Anyway, Fred Upton says, these guys, he was retiring. Remember Upton was retiring? These are the people, the kind of people that want to do these things, are the people that want these positions, are the very last ones that should be chosen, elected in these positions. They're the very last ones. What about Carrie Lake? Sherry says, Carrie's still fighting down in Arizona. Got an update about her, by the way. Paula says, you just made me throw up in my mouth when you mentioned Fred Upton. Yes, that's the Upton Upchuck. It's commonly referred to. Listen to this. Fred Upton says a possibility he could become a consensus candidate. This is why he wants it. A consensus. Listen very carefully. Consensus candidate to break the Republican House Speaker standoff is an intriguing suggestion that I have not rejected, he said. Upton's name had been floated for several weeks as a choice who could win bipartisan support. So think about it. They've already got bipartisan support in the uniparty. It's unipartisan support is what we're really talking about here. That's what we would see. You got a Fred Upton. Of course, they can't do this because then it becomes more and more obvious that there is only one party. You've got to keep up the illusion that there's two. You know that. You come on. I'm not talking to. You've been paying attention. You know exactly what's happening in the swamp. I'm talking about the swamp creatures. Upton's one of the oldest. His name has been floated for several weeks as a choice who could win that bipartisan support should Kevin McCarthy fail to rally the 218 votes. So in other words, Democrats would vote for him and Republicans would vote for him. And doesn't that tell you everything that you need to know about why this guy would be the worst kind of choice for that position? It's an interesting piece. It's a good laugh. Yeah, I think you might enjoy. I think you might enjoy watching some of it. Something else I saw that Gates said was sending McCarthy to clear out the swamp is like sending an alligator to do the work. The one thing you can say about this whole process, it is healthy. In fact, Congressman Byron Donalds out of Florida talking a little bit about this and the debate. This is what's supposed to take place, folks. It's not all supposed to be. I saw some people that were kind of frustrated about that this morning. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. I just wish all this stuff would be done behind the scenes already. But this is how it's supposed to work. We're supposed to see, particularly in the House, debate and conversation. This Congressman Donald's his opinion on it.
At the end of the day, do I believe Republicans are going to figure this out? Of course. We are going to elect a speaker. We're going to get that work done. But I think it's important for the American people to understand that unlike the Democrats who just do leadership by acclamation, we are actually having a deliberative process about what leadership looks like in the House of Representatives. We know Washington does not work. So having that deliberative discussion, which in some parts is messy at times, is in the long term in the best interest of America and of the body of the House of Representatives.
I agree. I think we are witnessing something that has to happen. It's not. Well, sometimes this stuff makes you uncomfortable, but you know, it's not supposed to be comfortable. A lot of this taking on the swamp, a lot of facing these fights, you know, they're not supposed to be. It's tough work. Nobody said that this would ever be easy. Trump, by the way, fully endorses Kevin McCarthy. When was this posted? This is posted this morning. Some really good conversations took place last night. This is a post on Truth Social from President Trump. This is what he shares. Some really good conversations took place last night, and now it's time for all of our great Republican House members to vote for Kevin. This is capitals now, all caps. For Kevin, close the deal, take the victory, and watch crazy Nancy Pelosi fly back home to a very broken California. I should read this in a Trump voice. The only speaker in U.S. history to have lost the House twice. That is tough, isn't it? She has. Republicans do not turn a great triumph into a giant and embarrassing defeat. It's time to celebrate. You deserve it. Kevin McCarthy will do a good job and maybe even a great job. Just watch. So, yeah. And, you know, do you agree with Trump on everything? Probably not. Who knows? There's something that he's got going on. I don't know. I am not... I will tell you this. I am not dead set against or for anybody. I'm watching the process play out. I think it's healthy for it to play out. But I also like this idea of somebody outside of Congress becoming the Speaker of the House. I would like to see somebody... I don't like an outsider come in. Joanne says, that surprised me about Trump because I just don't trust McCarthy 100%. Now, I get what you're saying. I kind of understand that. Tammy says, maybe Trump knows something we don't. Bruce says, Republicans have their record better than this show on votes for Speaker. Yeah. Well... Yeah, you know, it's like herding cats. Dealing with Republicans is like, and the party, it's like herding cats. Why? Because everyone's so freedom-minded. We all have our own ideas and our own thoughts, and that's I think, you know, some of that's healthy. Some of that stuff is healthy. In fact, all of it. You need that diversity. You talk about diversity. Diversity of opinion, diversity of thought, diversity of idea. That's what's important. What about some of the backroom deals? Some of the things that have been going on behind the scenes. Marjorie Taylor Greene, not happy about it one bit. Here she is going off on some of the things that happened. In fact, I think this was from yesterday.
We have been negotiating, talking, debating back and forth in our conference, trying to come to a really good rules package, and it's amazing. As a matter of fact, I'll quote Matt Gaetz. He said it's exquisite. That's what he said on our conference call on Sunday. But in that conference meeting there, we found out that there were several members, 3 in fact, that went in last night and were demanding positions for themselves, demanding gavel positions, demanding subcommittees, demanding for people to be taken off committees and people to be put on committees. Three Republicans out of our 222. I want you all to know I have not done that for myself. The only thing I have done is debate and request and argue amongst my peers for the right things for the rules package and for our agenda for the American people. And that's the only thing I've done. I haven't asked for one thing for myself. And I'm the only Republican that has 0 committees. So you would think I would be the one in there asking for something, but I haven't done that. But I find out that it's my Freedom Caucus colleagues and my supposed friends that went and did that, and they asked nothing for me. Nothing. That's what I found out in there. I am furious. Well, let me tell you something. While the conservatives that the base supports and believes in, let me remind everyone, they're not perfect either. Scott Perry, before his general election, refused to vote against the bill that was all about the gay marriage bill. He didn't, but he refused to vote against it. He voted for it. Then when it came back around after his election, he was able to vote against it. Conservatives would not like that. Let me remind everyone this. Matt Gaetz, who has compared Kevin McCarthy to Paul Ryan, my friend Matt Gaetz, he supported Paul Ryan almost more than anyone. It's still on his social media. As a matter of fact, his first vote in Congress was for Paul Ryan as Speaker. And then he cheered him on for nearly a year and a half or more when people like me were at home furious at Paul Ryan's speakership because it wasn't passing the MAGA agenda that we all supported. Chip Roy, he refused to object on January 6th. That's not what our base wanted. He also set out the vote for the January 6th committee. There's many more. Bob Good, $2 million from Kevin McCarthy to get elected. Lauren Boebert, under $2 million from Kevin McCarthy to get elected. Many more people have taken Kevin McCarthy's money to get elected, and then there's a few of them that don't want to support him as Speaker. So imagine that. This is not anything about the country. This is all about never Kevin. They just don't like Kevin McCarthy, and you cannot be successful in anything if you aren't able to walk in a room, make what you want, and get a deal done, and then walk away with the W and get to work and not worry about who you like and who you don't like. This is not about prom king. This is not about a pastor. This is about electing a person to sit in the speaker chair so that we can all get to work. And out of 222 Republicans, let me remind everyone, there's 218 votes to get something passed. That means all of us are powerful, every single faction in the Republican Party. So there's not going to be a tiny little group that is going to demand their way because they want subcommittee chairs and they want certain power positions. That is not how this works. And that is the worst thing they could do for the country. And I'm furious over it, and I'm going to continue calling them out. We will be fighting this out. We'll see what happens.
Marjorie Taylor Greene on fire. Interesting point she makes. Again, they'll vote, fourth time today. Gaetz leads charge for Jordan against McCarthy. Fox News reporting. Now they get Newt Gingrich up there, I guess, from last night on Hannity talking about what he thought about it all.
Their reelection at risk right now because people are going to look up and say, how can you hold the entire party hostage? How can you hold the House hostage? Who do you think you are to have this kind of authority?
Interesting process to watch, folks. Interesting process to watch. And it continues to play out. I've got some breaking news here that I want to get to. A story that we've been talking a lot about lately. It is an arrest has been made. In fact, an arrest.
This is a breaking news alert.
2 men charged in Washington State power substation attacks. And the story on this is going to blow your mind. Why they did it, particularly. 2 men have been charged. This is Washington State. Now, there were several different attacks in different places at different times. But an arrest has been made, at least in one of these cases. 2 men charged in Washington State. And the story is they get 10,000, left tens of thousands without power on Christmas Day, caused $3 million in damages. And it was all to steal a cash register. Look at this. 2 men vandalizing power substation in Washington. Charges have been filed again. Remember, I told you, I said, this is not all these attacks and whatnot. There's got to be more information out of it. We've got to have security around these critical infrastructure sites, cameras, but also you're telling me they could go buy and cell phone data from people on January 6th and arrest people, throw them into gulags. But you can't find these people attacking the power grids. Well, they got two suspects. Matthew Greenwood, 32, Jeremy Crayon, 40, arrested over Saturday. Two have been charged with conspiracy to damage energy facilities. The attacks left thousands without power on Christmas Day in Washington State. The duo investigators saying their plan was all in order to steal a cash register at a local business. Now, I don't know. You believe this? You buy this stuff? After cutting off power to the area, subjecting people to a cold and dark holiday weekend, the men drilled a hole in the lock of a business and stole its cash register. Something doesn't smell right about this. The overnight attacks on the Pierce County substations cut out power to customers during the holidays and cost about $3 million in damages. Matt Greenwood, 32, Jeremy Crayon, 40, arrested Saturday and been charged with conspiracy to damage energy facilities in possession of an unregistered firearm. Here they are. They got them on photos. Well, they got photos. So now all of a sudden we got pictures. Now all of a sudden we have pictures of what was happening at the power stations. Isn't that something? Now first time. Finally we got some. We got some sawed-offs in there. One of them at least. Unregistered guns. I don't know. This is another story, folks. It continues. We have stories just like this. I don't want to say daily basis, but the number, the uptick has been quite concerning lately. I just saw the breaking news headline, wanted to get it to you. Now, look, this is just like anything else. I've talked about it before. No matter what's coming, we don't know. Maybe it's more the rise of incidents like this. Maybe there are other events that are yet to occur. We don't know what's coming. We can get prepared. Go to preparewithjustin.com. Preparewithjustin.com. The folks at My Patriot Supply, they have all the goodies you need. The prepackaged shelf-stable food that lasts up to 25 years shelf life on the table and on the shelf. But not only that, tastes good, which I think is a plus. Although when you're hungry, you would probably eat cardboard. Just give me some cardboard. But I've tried the food, and I got to tell you, it's pretty good. They've got all kinds of other things. Right now, they've got a great deal, $70 off a preparedness crate, whether it's for you or somebody else. Maybe your New Year's resolution is to get ready for something that may come. Now is your opportunity. Preparewithjustin.com. I think I said Lady Blah Blah on Rumble said yesterday, prep hard, pray harder. I like that. Preparewithjustin.com is a way you can do it today. It is a closeout for the year. The year-end closeout sale happening right now at justinbarclay.com. I am getting rid of some things that are in the store that you won't be able to get ever again. It's just making room because I think I got too much stuff in here. I got to make it a little more simple. So if you go to justinbarclay.com/store, we're going to simplify some things for the new year. A little cleaning, spring cleaning, pre-spring cleaning about that, I guess was the best way to say it. And as we speak and get 10% off for the big guy, use that coupon code, the promo code big guy at checkout. The hoodies and t-shirts I identify as a conspiracy theorist. They're both on sale in various colors and sizes. That Let's Go Brandon Ugly Christmas sweatshirt, gonna go away. It's out the door. Tinfoil beanies may go soon, too. We did just get a bunch of new books in stock. I've got to refill those. And, of course, the original tinfoil hat, some of the T-shirts. Gonna get rid of some of this stuff. But you've got to go and take part in that sale right now. The year-end closeout happening at justinbarclay.com/store. Anything you buy in a store for one of our sponsors, folks, helps to support the mission here. Get the stories out. Get everything to the people that big people up. It helps make this possible. And I could not be more grateful to you because you help keep this thing rolling. Now, one piece of a sort of behind the scenes programming note, I'll tell you. I am working on a big project that I need help for. One of my New Year's resolution, but one of the things I realized over the last year is I need more help to get things done, especially as big as our plans are in the coming years. Big as I think is monumental as the things we want to accomplish over the next year are. Can't do it alone. I've done too much of that, tried too much of that. I need help. So, in fact, what we're doing is putting together a team of folks that can help. This is kind of a side hustle, work from home type of opportunity that you'll have to be a part of something very special. I'm going to talk a little bit about this in a private Zoom, a little bit of a private Zoom chat on Thursday night. You can get registered if you type in into your phone, text me 616-636-1676. That's the number, 616-636-1676, and text me the word crew. Text me the word crew to that number if you want to know more about what we're doing and if you want to be a part of the private Zoom on Thursday night. Now, listen, we only have a limited room in this thing, so please, only if you're serious. So you have to be a master of the internet. Now, you don't have to be a master of the internet, but what we would like you to have is a cell phone and maybe a laptop or a iPad or a tablet or something like that, because you might have to do a couple of things. Here's what we're looking for. Bring a great work ethic, probably first and foremost. You may have about 10 hours a week or so to help out. Pay is going to be great if you're able to do it. You could do it from anywhere. Just need you to be able to with talking to different people, dealing with people, emailing, texting. Be diligent, be nice. Couple of devices, like I said, be proficient. I don't need you to be an expert like on the internet or anything like that, but definitely something that you might want to think about. If you think that what I'm saying describes you, you probably will meet with us in our private Zoom happening on Thursday night. Okay, just about 30 minutes. We'll exactly go through everything. But don't register unless that sounds like you and you fit those requirements. So again, 616-636-1676 is the number. Text that word crew, and I'll send you the link to get registered, and then let me know that you got registered, because I want to be looking for you, make sure that I know if you're coming. All right, folks, there you have it. That's tomorrow night. We boy, I tell you what, we are gearing up. The year is flying fast and furious already. You're not going to be a telemarketer, Terry. You will be working on the phones. You'll have to, have conversations with like-minded individuals. Let's put it that way. But people that want to talk to you. It's not going to be anything crazy, but I do need some help. So if that sounds like you, there you go. If not, that's okay too. But I just appreciate you showing up on a daily basis. I appreciate you sharing the stories, sharing the lives that we do here. If you haven't already, click share today on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, Getter, YouTube, all those usual places. Do that. If you listen on the podcast, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you listen, make sure you rate and review us and share it with a friend. That helps us go a long way. It really does. All right, folks, wishing you the best. Back here tomorrow morning at 9:06. Make it a great day. God bless. And we need you in the fight. You are more important than you can ever imagine. We need you. We need you to be the best husbands, the best fathers. We need you to show up in your calling the best, the way you were created to show up. And no matter where that work is being done, it's important. It's not toxic. No. The folks at Mentality, they realize how important you are. Maybe you're feeling low energy, motivation, weight gain, muscle loss, fatigue. You're tired all the time. You're anxious and moody. Maybe you're irritable. You got that depression or anxiety. There is some help. In fact, it could be low testosterone levels. You'll never know unless you get tested. The folks at Mentality are here to help. Go to lowtusa.com to find out how they can help you. lowtusa.com. That's low, the letter T, USA.com, and take your life back. Any new conspiracy theories? All of mine have come true. Whether it's the original t-shirt that launched and started it all, or any of the new gear, t-shirts, hoodies, all of the cool stuff we have in the store at justinbarclay.com/store. Anything you buy not only helps support what we're doing here, getting the word out, sharing the truth and the stories that matter most, but also helps spark some much-needed conversation when you're out and about talking to people. My new favorite, obviously the Justin quarter zip. That's great, but I love the brand new One Nation Under God hoodie and t-shirt that's available in multiple sizes and colors. You can grab them right now at justinbarclay.com/store and get geared up today. Thank you for your support. We're talking about shortages now on children's medications. Well, we've seen shortages on everything, folks, from toilet paper, children's medication, food shortages. Eventually, we're going to be faced with food shortages. It's coming, and sooner rather than later. Get prepared. Now, I never want to make you feel afraid. I never want to evoke a spirit of fear here. I want you to be empowered. Think about what may be coming down the road so that you can get prepared for your family, for your friends, for your loved ones. Go to preparewithjustin.com and take a look at my Patriots supply. They've got food and gear for nearly every need. Whether it's natural disaster or man-made, or in this case, Biden-made, World Economic Forum made natural disaster, whatever it might be, these things are coming. Disaster will strike at some point, and we can get ready. My favorite motto is prepare like it all depends on me and pray like it all depends on God. Get ready with my Patriot Supply when you go to preparewithjustin.com. That's preparewithjustin.com. Go today and save some money. Plus, get ready no matter what's coming. We just partnered with Mike Lindell. And by the way, you know Mike because he's a courageous American. He's fighting the fight for us. He wants to make sure that this country gets back on track. In so many ways, Mike's doing great things. And when he's risking it all, he's been canceled by the big box stores. They're coming after him. And Mike refuses to give up. He won't stop fighting for us. He won't stop fighting for this country. That's why I love Mike Lindell. But, I love his products. The MyPillow stuff is amazing. I've been using the pillows for years, but just recently I got the sheets. And I wake up every morning and it's hard to get out of bed. Not because we face all the things that we face, but just I'm so comfortable. The sheets and the duvet covers, and that's just a fancy word for the blanket, the comforter that you put over yourself. I got to tell you, Mike is, he's one of the best. And mypillow.com/Justin. You can help support Mike and this show and get some great products. If you're like me, maybe you're powered by the My Coffee right now, or you're loving the towels, even the slippers. You can get up to 80% off right now on everything at mypillow.com/Justin. Just use keyword Justin, Justin. That's mypillow.com/Justin, and save a bundle and help fight back, save our country today. And the Bible tells us that we will face trials of all kinds, folks. They're coming. How can you face them with a little hope, with a little joy, with a peace beyond understanding? My wife and I know this. We've been through it with the ringer with our little girl. Our first was born 27 weeks. She was born a little early. God had a different plan. We felt a peace through it all. Talk about her story, and I share what sustained us through it all and gives me the perspective, the hope to fight and continue, no matter what we face in the coming days. We've seen the worst from the World Economic Forum. We've seen our very own government turn on us in a lot of ways. We've seen economically what can happen in this country and even more on the horizon. You don't want to think about those things. They are coming. But how can you get prepared to fight against it? Now, I've talked about ways you can physically do that, but how do you prepare your mind? How do you prepare your soul? How do you get your family ready? That's why I wrote my book, Good News, Hope, and Encouragement for Trying Times. I want to share the good news. I want to show you how to spot it, create it, and share it with others in your life. Well, of course, if you want to grab a signed copy of the book, you can get it right now. I'd love to send it to you. Go to justinbarclay.com/store to get your copy. justinbarclay.com/store. I'll sign it, send it to you, and get it in your hands. We just got a new shipment in, and I'd love to give you a copy of my book so that you can get the good news today. Make it a great day. God bless.